Most board games are at their best with a table full of friends and family to share the experience. But even pre-COVID times, getting a group of adults into the same room together can sometimes be a bit like herding cats. Sure, most games say that they play 2 players in the box, but a lot of the time that can involve using chunky AI versions of real players or cordoning off sections of the board. It's not ideal, but don't worry, Dyside has you covered with 3 excellent light games designed for just 2 players. Up first we have Odins Ravens, a gorgeous card game from Thorsten Gimmler, in which you and your opponent play as, well, Odin's Ravens, Hugin and Moonin. Apologies for all the pronunciations in this opening paragraph. At the start of the game, you'll lay out these 16 beautifully illustrated cards to represent Midgard, and then you're going to race. The first bird to go all the way down here and back to the beginning will be declared Odin's bestest raven. How do you move your courageous Corvus? Well, it couldn't be simpler. If you play a card from your hand that matches the land type in front of you, you move on to that tile. If there are multiple tiles of the same type, you cross all of them with a single card. If you don't have any cards that match the tile in front, you can play 2 matching land cards as if they were any land type. Easy peasy. Now you're probably wondering where the game is here, as so far, so luck based. Well, let me introduce you to Loki. And he's a bit of a dick. Throughout the game you have the option of drawing Loki cards. Each card has, in addition to his sneering mug, 2 special powers, and you can play these on your turn to invoke one of them. These powers range from simply moving your raven forward, to swapping land cards around or destroying them entirely. You can even add a card to your opponent's side of the track to make it longer for them. Did I mention Loki was a dick? Now you choose which combination of cards to draw at the start of the game and at the end of each of your turns. And getting the balance right between land and Loki cards is absolutely essential, and knowing when to play your Loki cards is vital to victory, as, once you've played them, they're gone. Odin's Ravens is a delightful little game. It's fast-paced, elegant and smart. It's also a nice slice of non-violent Norse mythology, which makes a change from games with this theme that normally have their beards drenched in blood. This is a racing game that, if both of you play well, will often go down to the wire, and the cunning invocation of the God of Mischief will likely be the deciding factor. And with pretty much 0 setup and teardown time, once you're done, you'll look your opponent in the eye and say, best of 3, best of 5, and you'll just play it again. You should really find room in your collection for Odin's Ravens. Well, enough about the epic race between mythological creatures. It's time to get back to the real world, and in the grimdark presence of the 3rd millennium, there is only competitive quilting. In Patchwork, designed by Uwe Rosenberg, you'll be competing with your opponent to make the most valuable quilt, and you're going to do this by playing reverse Tetris. On your turn, you'll choose one of the available tetrominoes and slot it onto your personal board. You'll have to pay the cost in buttons, but we'll get to that later, and then move your player marker along this board the number of spaces printed on the piece you've taken. Once both players reach the centre, the game is over. Playing Patchwork is a satisfyingly tactile experience. These tetromino patches are made from nice chunky cardstock, and plonking them down on your player board is a delight, even if after 4 turns you realise that you've balked trying to complete your player board. But you don't necessarily need to fill your board to win. Completing your quilt feels great, and you do lose points for any empty spaces that are on there at the end of the game. But how do you win Patchwork? Well, the player who has the most buttons at the end of the game wins. Much like post-Brexit Britain, Patchwork has a button-based economy. You'll use buttons to buy your tetromino patches, and the button symbols printed on them pay that many buttons back to you when you cross that symbol on the central board. This tiny engine that you build is lovely and makes Patchwork more than just a game of slotting puzzle pieces together. Plus you got this nice risk-reward of spending what are essentially your victory points to try and earn a larger total than your opponent. It's nice. It's a delectable competitive puzzle without being confrontational. Even though one of you will lose, you will have fun just gradually filling in your board anyway. Well, maybe. And finally, we come to my favourite game on this list. It's a wee bit more complicated than the other 2, but 7 Wonders Duel, designed by Antoine Bauza and Bruno Cathala, is a very cool customer. The pharaohs of Egypt, the emperors of Rome, and the great kings of Greece. You'll be playing as none of them, but you will be constructing an ancient city and erecting extravagant wonders to make your mark on your dining room table. In 7 Wonders Duel, you're going to take turns drawing cards from this lovely tableau, which represents the buildings that you can construct in your city. And when you take one of these cards, you can do one of 3 things. Providing you can afford the cost, you can pop that building down in your city, and it becomes a permanent fixture, generating resources to allow you to construct better buildings later on, granting you a special power, or it may score you points at the end of the game. You can choose to discard a card from the tableau, which will give you some money and also deny your opponent from being able to claim that card. And finally, if you've built up a decent amount of resources, you can use a card to construct a wonder, displaying the glory of your civilization to the world by building a very nice garden or a stone tent for dead people. And wonders aren't just for show. They can score you a shed ton of points, give you special abilities, or immediately give you another turn. I mean, wonders is literally in the name of the game. They're a big deal. How do you win? By having the best city. Which city is the best? Well, if you got more points than your opponent at the end of the game, you have the best city. If you manage to construct 6 of the 7 scientific buildings, you have the best city. And if you mercilessly burn your opponent's city to the ground, well, you have the best city. Pretty much each decision you make in this game is an interesting one. The face-down cards that are available are only revealed when the cards covering them are taken. This means you can give your opponent an opportunity by advancing your own ends. You may spot a card that you both need, but choose to destroy it because you can't quite afford it right now. When should you focus on scientific advancement? When should you start stabbing your opponent in the face and burning down their house? Well, in the game obviously, not in real life. Constructing your city, creating synergies and chaining buildings together to get them for free is really satisfying. It's fun, it's a fun time. Slotting these buildings into your city and creating weird little stories like building a city whose main export is papyrus and then focusing on military buildings like a nation of megalomaniac librarians. 7 Wonders Duel is a cracking game. It looks great, it's smart, it's got an evocative theme. It's a little bit complex if you've never played a modern board game before, but most of the complexity is offloaded onto these symbols that are on the cards, and they give you a little cheat sheet for that, so don't worry about that too much. It does have a couple of flaws. A scientific victory can feel hollow, and a military victory will probably never happen as you'll just cancel each other out. But going the distance and getting a points victory does feel damn satisfying, and like I said earlier, building stuff is just fun anyway. There we go, 3 robust dueling games to add to your collection, or to get you started, as any one of these 3 is a solid entry point into the hobby. But what about you? What are your favourite 2-player games? Let us know in the comment section below. While you're still here, you might as well click on the things that are popping up on your screen now. Subscribe to the channel, click on the little notification bell so you don't miss another video. Share it on social media like Bebo and MySpace. Whatever else helps the almighty YouTube algorithm. Sacrifice a Tory? That's always fun. Anyway, I'm going now. Tatty bye.